Mindset over circumstance. Why your past doesn't get the final vote. You're listening to the Nomad Build with Angel López, where we rebuild life from the ground up. One choice, one mindset, one breakthrough at a time. Because freedom is built, not bought. You don't get to choose where you start, but you do choose what you do with it. Some of us were born in the peace. Some of us were born in the noise, chaos, and instability. I grew up in neighborhoods and homes where fighting, yelling, broken walls, and shut-off utilities were normal. There were days with no light, no hot water, no gas, and still, life went on. By every statistical measure, I should have been another story people whisper about. He got locked up. He got hooked on something. He never made it out. But I didn't. And it wasn't because life was kind to me. It's because at some point, I decided my circumstances don't get the final word. I do. This episode is for anyone who grew up in a mess and secretly wonders if that mess is all they'll ever be. I didn't grow up in a calm, stable home. There was arguing. There was disrespect between parents. There were moments of violence. There were holes in the wall one night and patched drywall the next day. Like nothing ever happened. Sometimes the power got cut. Sometimes the water. Sometimes the gas. We boiled water. We improvised. We survived. On top of that, we moved a lot. I went through 5 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 4 high schools. Just let that sink in for a second. Every time I was just starting to settle, make friends, or find my place, boom, new school, new environment, new fight to prove myself again. And outside the house, the neighbors were rough. I remember being the minority kid at places where almost nobody looked like me. Fights weren't a maybe, they were almost guaranteed. You learn to defend yourself early, physically and emotionally. So when people today see me traveling, owning properties, or talking about freedom, they don't always see that version of me. The kid who grew up in noise and chaos and confusion. But that's exactly why this conversation matters. Here's the part I want you to really hear. I could have easily become a product of that environment. When you grow up in chaos, that chaos wants to live inside of you. It wants to become your identity. The yelling teaches you to scream back. The violence teaches you to hit first. The instability teaches you why plan. Everything falls apart anyway. And you start to see it around you. People stuck in the same patterns for decades. Kids turning into adults who haven't healed anything. Drama treated as normal. Poverty treated as destiny. But even as a kid, something in me said, I don't want to be like this. I didn't have the language for mindset back then. I didn't know about personal development or psychology. All I knew was I didn't want to end up angry, broke, bitter, and stuck. So I became a little bit mentally stubborn. While other kids were hanging out and smoking and wasting time, I was working. Not because I was better than them, but because I was determined not to become another sad story. I was ignorant toward the street lifestyle on purpose. I didn't want to blend in. I didn't want to be initiated into the same pain I was already surrounded by. And that's the first big lesson of this episode. You don't have to accept the programming you were born into. You might not be able to leave it right away physically, but you can start disagreeing with it mentally. Mindset didn't magically erase my problems. It didn't give me a perfect childhood. It didn't stop the yelling or repair the marriage or pay the bills. But it did something just as powerful. It kept me from surrendering to it. When I looked around and saw people staying stuck, a voice in my head would say, I'm not staying here forever. I don't know how yet, but I know I'm not. That one belief guided so many choices. Saying no when everyone else was saying yes. Choosing work over hanging out. Focusing on learning skills instead of learning how to escape reality. Being more interested in my future than in fitting in. And later in life, that mindset is what helped me rebuild financially. Because once you've lived through instability as a kid, you recognize instability as an adult. You look at your life and go, I've already lived through chaos once. I'm not going to recreate it with my own decisions. So even when my life later fell apart, that debt, the boat, the car, the apartment, I had already trained the part of my mind to say, we're not staying here, we're rebuilding. That's the real power of mindset. It doesn't always change your circumstances overnight, but it keeps you moving through them instead of camping inside them. Let me tell you something that might sting a little. Your past is not responsible for your current excuses. Yes, it shaped you. Yes, it hurt you. Yes, it left scars and programming and triggers. But at some point, you have to decide who's in charge now. Your childhood? Your neighborhood? Your parents' mistakes? Your old trauma? Or you, right now, as an adult who can think, choose, and change? I'm not minimizing what you went through. I still feel pain when I think about certain memories. I still have to work through anger, insecurity, and old defensive habits. But here's the difference. I don't treat my past as a prison anymore. I treat it as a training ground. Growing up in that noise taught me how to read people quickly, how to sense danger, how to be resilient, how to survive instability, how to keep going even when I'm tired. Those are powerful traits if you aim them at the right things. Your environment tried to program you for destruction. You can reprogram yourself for a purpose. If you want a simple way to summarize mindset over circumstance, it's this. You stop asking, why is life like this? And start asking, who do I have to become so life doesn't look like this anymore? When you make that shift, your anger becomes fuel. Your pain becomes information. Your story becomes a message instead of a weight. You don't have to pretend everything was okay. You don't have to glorify your trauma, but you also don't have to drag it like a chain for the rest of your life. There's a version of you that your environment never planned for, a version they didn't expect to see. That version is built the moment you say, I'm done letting my past call the shots. I want to leave you with something practical, something you can actually do this week. Number one, name your environment. Take a few minutes and write down the top 3 things from your past or present environment that have been shaping you. Maybe it's constant arguing. Maybe it's a culture of laziness. Maybe it's a family belief like, people like us never get ahead. Be honest, put it on paper. Number 2, decide what you're keeping and what you're rejecting. Next to each one, write either, I keep this, if it made you strong and you want to use it, or I break this. If it's a pattern that ends with you, circle the ones you're breaking. Number 3, take one small action that proves it. If you're breaking laziness, set a daily non-negotiable task. If you're breaking chaos, create a small routine like cleaning your room every night or going for a walk without your phone. If you're breaking victim mentality, catch yourself every time you say, I can't, and replace it with, how can I? Your actions are how you tell your past. You don't run me anymore. Let me leave you with this. You may have been born into the storm, but you were never meant to live your whole life drowning in it. Your environment might explain your starting point, but it does not explain your finish line. That's on you. And that's the good news, because it means you're not stuck. If this episode hit home for you, share it with someone who grew up in noise and needs to be reminded that they're not their circumstances. This is the Nomad Build, and I'm Angel López, reminding you, you don't have to be a product of where you came from. You can be the proof that it doesn't have to have the final vote.